If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. That really, really does a lot for us. Also, make sure you tick that notification bell to follow up on everything that we're doing. And if you're listening on any of the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you like, click the subscribe button. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you leave a comment and rate us. We really love when y'all interact with us, and it helps us out a lot. Appreciate y'all.
And we showing everybody how to grow their confidence. One for all and gold like Donovan goals. So we go
beyond the game, beyond the same. Changing the culture and the land. To the court, to the field, to the skates. Get the real from the gate.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another podcast with Beyond the Game. This is the Leadership Academy, and today we have a very special guest. And DC, just give me a second. Let me give you your flowers, because I've known you since we were 13 years old. This man has been one of my best friends since we were 13 years old. We met in the 9th grade. We started playing football together at Holy Trinity High School in Oakville, Ontario. And we played 5 years together. Well, technically 4, I was injured for a year, but that's neither here nor there. He went on to have a very successful career at McMaster University, was drafted in the 2016 CFL draft to the Toronto Argonauts, had a very, very successful career with the Toronto Argonauts. When you retired, you were the longest tenure Argo. Weren't you at that time?
I spent like 2 months as the longest tenure. About 2 months I had as the longest tenure.
But man, there's honestly something to be said about that longevity. First of all, because a pro football career is what's supposed to be 3.5 years. You did 7 plus COVID year. And you did your thing. You are a 2-time Grey Cup champion. 2-time. You enter the league, second year you won a Grey Cup, and you had a really big play in the Grey Cup. You had really big plays, I should say, in the Grey Cup. And you finished the 2022 season with a Grey Cup ring. Everybody, please give it up for my boy, the man who stood next to me at my wedding. I stood next to him at his wedding, Declan Cross. DC, how you doing, bro?
Yeah!
Do not be fooled. This energy has been there since day one. Energy's been there since day one, and I absolutely love it, man. I'm so excited for you to be on here, bro. We started Beyond the Game together, and now we're here. I can't believe we've taken 3 seasons to get you on the podcast.
I know. Sorry. Sorry, dude.
Well, inspiration for the Leadership Academy came from you, so I'm just amped to get going. Declan, please tell us a little bit about you. I can do all that, but I want you to speak to the people.
All right, well, I'm Declan Cross. Like my bro Shaka has already introduced me as, I played fullback for the Toronto Argonauts for the entirety of my 7-year career in the CFL. Very fortunate to have won 2 Grey Cups with the team, and I retired recently after the 2022 season. I retired, and me and my wife Eliza are now living our best after football lives in Australia as my wife completes her dental school, and I'm doing my duties as husband/personal chef. So I'm living the chef life.
I love that.
And the student life while I'm out here as well, continuing the learning.
Absolutely love it, man. Absolutely love it. And how has that transition after to post football life been for you? How's your body? How's your mind? Where are you feeling?
I'm feeling better than I ever have.
I can imagine.
You know what? So it's interesting. So with football, I'm sure it's like this with a bunch of sports, but with football, it takes a particularly physical toll on the body. And it's like you said, it's a sport where you expect to play a few years if you're fortunate. And I was very blessed to be able to play just over double that. And every year that you go into camp, you have to basically start anew. And there's always a fresh crop of young, healthy, hungry athletes coming in to try and take your job, and you have to defend your position while building, the team and contributing to the team and solidifying your role on the team. And honestly, it gets harder every year. It never got easier. It always got harder every year because you don't get younger. and you only get more and more injured and hurt as time goes on in football. And so this was the hardest training camp by far. It was the hardest training camp I ever had to do, and that's the same to be said every year that I did one. So with that being said, after I told my body that I was done after the season, instant relief. I felt like, I guess before I felt like I was Atlas. I'm holding up, the earth for 7 years. I'm just doing this, and then I'm finished. And I tell my body, I'm done. Relax now. You can relax. Don't worry. You don't have to be on guard. And now I just feel so stress-free. I feel so relaxed. And I love that I get to use my brain more instead of my body for a change. I get to kind of switch it up a little bit. And I feel refreshed.
Yes.
I feel refreshed. I get to do some new stuff. I get to use my brain in a different way than it's been accustomed to for the last several years.
Bro, that's perfect. That's a perfect, I guess, explanation of what that transition is like. And I know not everybody has, the fortune to feel that way after they retire. But I'm so glad that you were able to walk away on your own terms. And I know your body's still recovering in certain ways, but it is what it is. I remember having conversations with you, like you said, before every training camp, this is going to be your hardest training camp, and you were talking about should I walk away from it now? And you know what? It finally.
Oh, I almost retired like 3 times before. I was like, I'm so late. I don't know if I can do this.
But something kept calling you back. Something kept calling you back, and bro, congratulations on a very successful career. You lived out a dream. And honestly, I remember draft day. And I remember texting you. I remember telling you about the dream I had that you're going to get drafted to Calgary. Obviously, that didn't happen. It is what it is. But I remember telling you, like, I'm so proud of you, and it couldn't have happened to a better person. And I was so excited for you to live out your dream and do what you do. So, in your time in Toronto, you have made such a huge impact in the community, and that's honestly that's why we're here. That is why we're here, and that's one of the reasons why you're on this Beyond the Game team. That's one of the reasons why I love you, because you have a heart that's so much bigger than football, and it's a blessing to have been able to walk alongside you for all these years and to see your career go out the way it did. You were Maui personified for several years, and man, it's awesome to see you in this side of the journey now. So let's keep going with it, because I can keep giving you flowers, but bro, we've had these conversations many times. So leadership. What is leadership to you? Because ever since I've known you, you have been a leader. So what is it to you?
So what I think of leadership now is probably different than what I thought of leadership when we were in high school, because I know that as with most things, your perception of them is what you experience. So in high school, my idea of leadership was the Ray Lewis pump-up videos I would watch on YouTube. Where my dogs at? Where my dogs at? That's leadership, right? That was leadership in high school.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, you observe things and you experience things. And at this moment in time, I have a different definition that will be different, I'm sure, 10 years from now. But at this moment in time, I believe leadership essentially boils down to helping a group become what they need to become, or helping an individual become what they need to become.
Okay.
That's probably what I perceive as leadership right now. And a lot of that is because no matter what type of leader you are, if you have you can have, for example, in the CFL, you have Calgary and you have Toronto. So you have leaders on both teams, right? And these leaders on both teams are different players, different coaches, different styles of leadership, but every team is going to answer the question of what is your goal this year? They're going to answer it the same way. The goal is to win the Grey Cup. So even though you have the same goal, it looks completely different. Leadership looks completely different if you look inside to what each team is doing. It looks totally different. So when you boil it down, though, no matter what it sounds like or what it looks like, winning the Grey Cup is the common goal, and the only way to do that is to help the group become a Grey Cup winning team. So
Yeah.
that's why I think that leadership is essentially helping an individual or helping a group become what they need to be to accomplish the goal.
Okay. So in this time that you've been, I guess you've been playing sports, you've been developing your definition of leadership. Where did it first come from? And then I guess the second part of that was how has it developed over time for you?
So, like I said, it comes from observing, because I don't know. In my experience, like I didn't come into football as a leader. I came into football looking around like this and looking at others looking at veterans to see how to do things. I think that that's still true. Where I came up, I really did come up with the definition by just watching others who were in a leadership role. I would watch the coaches, I would watch the players, I would watch the general managers. I've been fortunate, Pinball Clemens. I've been fortunate to work alongside Pinball since I came into the league in 2016, because Pinball he's everywhere at once, so you can't go anywhere without running into him. And I would see him and his leadership role, his leadership style, and I'd go, oh, there's something to that. But then you look at everyone else, and there's also something to that too, because different leaders work in different ways, and all of it works, but it all works differently. So I guess I came up with the definition watching others, and it's changed in the same way. So like I see leadership now as something that's a little different in my own, with the way I see and use leadership is different, because I just add the data that I pick up from others. So I see the way that you lead, I see the way that this other guy leads, I see the way that this other guy leads, this other girl leads, this other person leads, and I go, okay, this works for them, this works for them, this works for them. Now, from those things, what of those things do I resonate with? Because at the end of the day, it can't just be taking pieces from everyone and just using it, because you can make, leadership isn't something that comes from a robot. It comes from a person.
Yes,
and it
exactly.
works that way because leadership is essentially, it should be a reflection of who you are. But who you are changes. Who you are changes every year. Who you are changes as you experience things, and that's okay. You can take pieces. I know I take pieces from everyone. I see what resonates with me, and then I make it a part of me. Now I'm different, and now that I'm different, my leadership is different. So that's how it's changed over time, is just incorporating, growing and changing and allowing yourself to grow and change, because you don't start off as nobody has started off as a perfect leader. Pinball might be a gangster leader, but he didn't start off as a gangster leader. He'll tell you that he became a gangster leader over time.
He's
Maybe
that
he became a gangster leader.
And man, it's awesome to have these influences around you that you're able to watch and grow and learn from. So in your you know what? Okay, no, we'll get to that question in a minute. Let's talk about you as a pro athlete a little bit now. Okay, so I know this because we grew up together, but can you explain a little bit about your upbringing a little bit? What got you into sports? What's led you down this path?
So my journey in sports, I think, came from my earliest experiences of watching, I think it was watching my mom play volleyball and do kickboxing, because she was active. She would always bring me to the beach. She'd do her beach volleyball with her friends. And I would also go to her.
Oh, I know Aunt Carol played volleyball.
Yep. She was volleyball mama, and then she'd bring me to her kickboxing classes, and that's how I got exposed to combat sports, through watching mama do kickboxing. So I think because I was like little Deck just watching this, I thought, okay, I'm supposed to now do some sports. So I did all the sports. She put a baseball in my hand, and I played baseball, and then I played basketball. We played basketball together, and then we played football, and I just tried all the sports. And my upbringing was one that I was very fortunate, because Papa Cross and Mama Cross were both hard workers, and they both supported me in different ways to excel athletically with whatever I wanted to do in sports. I think that they could see that I was very passionate about sports. So Mama would cook me healthy food all the time, and that's integral to becoming and staying a good athlete. get the breakfast of champions
Yes,
going,
yes.
where you get the steak and eggs in the morning.
Breakfast of champions.
Not
Love
every
it. Absolutely love it.
not every little kid gets steak and eggs in the morning. So I was like, wow, this is
No.
cool. And then Pops would always bring me to my sporting events, and as a kid, that sometimes is a limiting factor because you go like, I'm not able to get to all the practices, or I'm not able to get to all the whatever, and sometimes you have to hitch a ride with a friend, but sometimes your friends aren't going. So having Pops drive me to everything, and he drove me to every sporting event I needed to be at, and Mama would fuel me so that I could go to all my sporting events. So
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
to follow up on that, they also supported me by again realizing I was so passionate. They didn't push me to work jobs like part-time jobs too much. Like growing up, I could count on one hand how many jobs I had, and I only worked them for a few months, and then the season would start, and I go, okay, I have to do this now. So I didn't have to work too much. I could focus on training. I could spend pretty much the whole summer just focusing on, like, I was living a professional athlete life as a kid sometimes, where I would just train all day long and eat good food and then go to sleep and do it again. And that's not the norm. So I recognize I was very fortunate to have supportive parents. So that was huge growing up, and that kind of laid the foundation for what came next. And I knew, like, pretty much as soon as I started playing football, that's when it became like, okay, I'd like to play this professionally. But I originally wanted to play baseball professionally, and then I wanted to play basketball professionally, and then I realized I was 5'10" and I wasn't going to play basketball professionally, so I decided to try football. So I wanted to always do it. I just didn't know which sport at first.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. That, man, it's so great because first of all, shout out to Mama and Papa Cross because they made sacrifices. They did what they had to do in order to get you where you had to be, right? And I remember playing football with you in high school and always seeing my games. They didn't miss games. And when we even when we traveled far, like your cousins would come out, your auntie and uncle would come out and watch us play. Like your family was so ride or die for you and so supportive, and that's honestly such a big blessing because, like you mentioned yourself, not everybody has that, and so for you to be able to have that, it made your path not easy, but doable, right?
It widened the path.
Absolutely, right. And you mentioned that once you started playing football, you knew that's what you wanted to do professionally. I was right there with you, right there training at SST Oakville, SST sports specific training. Shout out Delroy, shout out Coach Ivan. I remember the day when I'm pretty sure it was. Forget what we called it, but it was you, me, and Cole Munden. We went in the gym. It was us and Coach Ivan, and we decided to go hit 100 of bench press, cleans, and squats. It was like, what are we doing? But that was awesome because we got to train with pros at an early age, and the pros telling us, hey, you can do this. What does that do to a kid? What does that do to you?
It gave me extra room to turn my dial up. So before I could turn my dial up to 10, and when I received reinforcement and encouragement from professional athletes, people who I looked up to who are already living the life that I wanted to live, my dial went up to 20. You know what I mean? It added some extra notches where I could just keep cranking it up. I wanted to play professional sports, but I didn't believe I could, honestly, until Kevin Ivan told me that I could. Kevin Ivan at the time was our trainer at SST, but he was also an active player in playing for Toronto Argonauts and then the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the CFL, and he was already a legend. We already knew him as one of basically, he was the Canadian special teams / linebacker demon that was just. He was tearing up the league. Exactly. So that's how we saw him. So if he comes up to you and he says, you're doing a great job, we're going to believe that you're doing a great job. If he comes up to you and he says, you need to do a little more, you're going to believe you need to do a little more. So in my case, he came up to me and he said, I see that you have potential to play professionally, if that's something you want to do, you should do it because you can do it. And that's all I needed to hear. I went, bloop, turn it up to 20.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. I love that. No, like I was saying, we've had like the absolute fortune and blessing to be able to be around pro athletes from a young age. Like Coach Ivan was there. Anthony Cannon was one of our coaches as well. He brought in some track and field athletes as well. We had who else did we had so many coaches, so many people who had made it to that level, and each of them feeding into us that we had the ability to, and we were capable of making it to that level. It like you said, it just turned out just that much more. It makes a huge difference. Huge difference. Who did you look up to as inspiration to continue to push to get to that level?
So I think it's important, like I said earlier, to look to everyone as inspiration, because there's parts of everyone you meet, whether your initial perception could be that they're doing a good job or a not so good job, no matter who it is, they're going to have something that you can learn from them. So I think it's important to you look to everyone as inspiration. I look to you as inspiration. You're inspirational the way that you take care of your family, the way that you're a husband to your wife, the way that you're a father to your child. I look to my bros that I play with as inspiration. The ones that I was drafted with, I'd look to them as inspiration and go, oh, we came in together. Let's push each other to see who can, let's get better together. Let's do this. I look at the players who are already doing it. I look at especially the players who are already doing it, because the players who have done it a long time, there has to be something to their formula that is especially working for them. So to name drop a little bit, when I first got into the league, I was super fortunate that the old guard of the CFL was still around. They were not the old generation, but like the generation before me. Okay, the superstars that came in, these guys were still around. The Ricky Rays were still there. Chris Fenzile was there.
Legendary.
Bear Woods was there the year after. James Yurichuk was there. So that's four names right there who, when I came in the second year for Bear, but pretty much right when I came in, I was able to interact with all these guys who are Hall of Famers, who are guys who do things the right way, and guys who you can 100% take multiple things from what they do, and at the very least, try them out and see if they work for you. You know, it's incredible. It was incredible just to watch these guys work and to talk to them and to learn. Even if you don't necessarily know what to ask, you just watch what they do and watch how they go through certain experiences, and you go, "Wow, okay, that's how I need to respond when this happens. That's how I need to do. That's what I need to do when I'm tasked to do this." So learning from them was just it was special. But learning from everyone was special too, because there's always something to gain.
Yes. Absolutely, man, and that's really cool. And watching those players from an outside perspective, Ricky Ray seems like the quiet, silent. He's that leader that's just going to show up and work. Bear Woods, I've seen videos of him like in the middle of the crowd doing his thing, like getting loud, getting everybody pumped up. Yurichuk, he's just a worker, dude. Yeah. It's really cool to see all the different personalities. But like you said, you came into the league, and these were the leaders on your team. How did you kind of manage the different leadership styles, and how did you mesh that and reconcile that with yourself?
So trial and error is the answer to that. I didn't know what would work, but I know that what they did worked for them, and they were they were players I looked up to. So like you said, it's interesting because Ricky Ray is quiet. You don't even know he's there, but he's just scoring touchdowns and making plays. Chris Fenzile is a giant man, but he will take time to teach you. Like, he'll take time to help you along with things. He's not just like, you know what I mean? Bear Woods is this another leader, very different than Ricky. You'll hear when Bear Woods is in the room, and he'll let you know he's in the room. But also a great leader. And then, like you said, Yurichuk, like the workhorse, like a guy who's just going to lead by example. These are all guys who lead in different ways, but they're all guys that are excellent leaders. So it just speaks to how different your leadership style can be. And I know that just speaking on the like how to do the trial and error. Initially, I would do the trial and error just by watching. So for Ricky, I remember I would sit in meetings as close to him as I could without being a weirdo, and I would look over his shoulder and I would see what he's writing down. And I'd go, okay, I need to, because Ricky was the one who, when you walked into a meeting room, he was the first one with his notebook open, getting his notes in order. He's got his pencils out. He's ready to go. Like before the meeting starts, he's ready to go. But he's been playing for so long that I was like, what are you even writing down right now? Because you have to. Don't you know everything that there is to know, buddy? Like, what are you possibly writing down? So
every scheme, everything.
He knows everything, right? That's what I thought. So, and he probably he knows a lot of stuff. So I look over his shoulder, and I see that he's writing down the very basics, like stuff that he does already know, stuff that he 100% already knows, and he's writing it down. And I figure, okay, he must be doing that then to reinforce the important stuff, because even though you've been doing it a long time, you still have to you do it a long time by doing the basic stuff well. So of course it makes sense that even though you know A, B, and C, you're not just going to wait until it's time to write down D, E, and F. You're going to write down A, B, C again, because then you'll be able to do those things better. So I started doing that. I tried that, and I see how it works. And I do it. I don't write every basic thing down, but I would take from that specifically. I would write down the things that were important about the basic stuff. So I would simplify it in language that I understood better, and I would take the same every year. I'd take similar notes, but I'd try to make the notes even simpler. I try to simplify my language that I was using for the notes. So that's one thing I learned from Ricky. You talk to you observe Bear Woods. Bear Woods is a guy who you show up at the facility, and he's already been there for an hour. And I'm like, hey man, did you sleep over? Like, what are you doing here already? It's like 5:45 in the morning, and you've been here for an hour. And I walk in, I'm like, hey Bear, you working out? He goes, oh, I just finished. Heck yeah, I finished my workout. Go have a good one. I'm like, hey, so obviously there's something to being disciplined enough, not just to show up early, because you can always just wake up and show up early to something. He's waking up, he's showing up early, and he's able to perform, and that means that he went to bed early. So there's things that you can gain. Oh, you have to have the discipline to get your sleep in order to show up early enough to prepare the way that you need to prepare to do your job at a high level every day. So then I try that. Okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, I like it. I really like how I feel going to bed early, waking up early, getting my workout in. Now, before the day starts, I've already done the hardest thing of my day. And now the stress level is down. Now I can focus better. So it's like there's these other repercussions that happen from these decisions these guys are making, where it's not just, oh, he shows up early. It's like, no. He does a bunch of things, and one of those things is he shows up early. But you have to do it. You have to try it, and then you feel the results of that. Like I said, Chris Van Zyl, I observe how he works, and I go, hey, man, I see that you're doing like certain things I don't understand. And I asked him specifically once for help with tight end blocking, inline blocking, because in college I never lined up at tight end. I would always, and high school, I would always get to move around, right?
You'd be the slot.
I was just running around, right? I would get free motion. That's the Canadian game. But sometimes at a pro level on certain offenses, you just have to line up at tight end. And I just asked him for help, and he goes, sweet, here's one thing you can focus on, that if you just focus on this, you're going to have a better chance of success during the play. And he teaches me he teaches me one thing. He's like, try this. And then I did it every morning, and I did it, and now it's like, okay, I feel much more comfortable at my position already. Thank you, veteran that's been playing for so many years, for showing me, a rookie, one thing that'll help me. Like, thank you for being, you know what I mean? Like, humble enough to be like, oh, I'm, here, this is a simple thing that'll help you begin your journey. And then finally, observing James Jurachuk in my first year, I don't know if his leg was broken, but it darn well could have been. He played through some injuries that no one, like, I didn't know that you could play as hurt as James Jurachuk played. He is one of the toughest players I've ever played with. And what I learned by observing that is he didn't he didn't complain to the guy. He wouldn't walk around and be like, "Oh man, my leg or my this." He would just limp around because he had to, because he couldn't walk, quietly, and then when it's time to go and the play's on, he's going. And he wouldn't complain about it. He would stay positive, and he would just put his head down and do the work. And so I try to incorporate that, because you just don't go through football at a physical position without, or any position really, without getting hurt sometimes. So you have to learn how to deal with injury, and this guy taught me how to deal with injury and how to do it the right way. Because if you, and I know later why he didn't moan about it and complain about it, if you start complaining as a leader, the troops are going to start complaining right alongside you, and it's a trickle-down effect. You can't do it. You can't be someone that's going, woe is me, as a leader especially, because the guys who are looking up to you are going to think that that's what they're supposed to do. So these are 4 different leaders that all did things completely different ways, but they all are exceptional leaders, and they all had something that I could gain from observing them alone. Not even just the conversations, but just from observing and trial and error. Such a difference was made.
Absolutely. We're gonna take a quick pause in our conversation. We gotta pay the bills. We have to pay the bills, right? So, quick thank you to our sponsors. Special shout out to Roundball Basketball, a twofold grassroots entity that not only provides the all-around basketball experience for all athletes of all skill sets, but also uses the game as a platform to impact its community. Contact them at roundball.bc on Instagram to get involved. The Washington Kids Foundation and Game Ready facility has provided a safe place for children and youth to develop and pursue their goals and dreams. The high-level coaches comprised of current and former pro, Olympic and university coaches, and athletes provide a supportive and competitive environment for each individual to be challenged in order to reach new personal bests. The Game Ready and Washington Kids Foundation journey of development ensures the path includes growth of character, leadership, and passion, all attributes that are valued through every stage of life. I'm so glad you mentioned those 4, and specifically 2 I kind of want to touch on. Bear Woods for being in the gym early, or being at a facility early and doing this thing, and your Chuck for essentially playing injured, but being able to push through pain and being able to fight through this and show that warrior spirit. 2 things. This past year, you and some other teammates had the Breakfast Club. Can you please speak on the Breakfast Club a little bit?
Speak on the Breakfast Club a little bit. The Breakfast Club is so close to my heart, Shaka. Thank you for asking about it. The Breakfast Club, I thank Bear Woods for the Breakfast Club, because, again, trickle down, man. So the Breakfast Club was a group of like-minded players who just happened to pretty much all be from the offensive backs room, by the way. Just shout out positionally. The backs know what's up.
Running backs, fullbacks.
Running backs, fullbacks, baby. But not just running back, fullbacks, actually. Our punter was there every morning as well. Jake Reinhardt, our snapper, or the other longest tenured Argo, was there every morning. McLeod, Bethel Thompson, our fearless leader, was there sometimes before the Breakfast Club. But it was basically a group of us. We called ourselves the Breakfast Club because it's early morning, and we would gather at the facility, and we would always be the first group into the facility collectively. Maybe 8 or 9 of us were in there, and we would walk in the second the doors opened to the gym. We'd walk in. We'd all spend about an hour training. We'd do our own thing. We'd do our strength and conditioning coach Usama's thing. But the point is that we'd suffer together. That's what we wanted to do. Is we wanted to get the hardest part of our day out of the way, and we wanted to suffer together. And what that does is it builds bonds stronger and stronger and stronger over time. Suffering with your bros is a fantastic way to become stronger unit. Okay,
you go through trenches together. You do.
Yeah. Yes. And it wasn't. This went on. The players, we started doing it for a bit. We started off as a smaller group, And then we started asking players, hey, do you want to come earlier, come to the Breakfast Club? Or we'd see guys on their way in as we were on our way out. Sort of a situation like Bearwoods and me when we would see in the morning and go, oh, hey, just finishing, like, see you later kind of thing. And then by the time the year ended, there was like double the number of people that would show up to Breakfast Club. And our special teams coordinator, Mickey Donovan, would show up every morning alongside with us.
Coach Mickey, man.
Legendary, and that's such a great leadership move to put yourself in with the troops. You put yourself in with the players,
absolutely,
and you suffer with your players. Mark Tressman in 2017, amazing cerebral coach. Not a guy that you would think from outward appearances would be in the gym. He made the effort to show up to the gym in the morning, and he wouldn't. Listen, he's not going to work. He's not going to do the stuff that we're doing, but he's there, and he knew what he was doing. He was showing that, hey, I'm with you guys. He would do a couple sets, and he would go do his stuff, and he would leave. But just the act of a coach showing up to the gym, even if they show up and just say hello and then leave, you show up to a place where your players are on their own, working to get better, and it makes a huge difference in the trust level, in the love that's developed within the team. And that's really what Breakfast Club was about, was suffering together to build our bond and to just trust each other and love each other more. And the byproduct of that is a stronger group, and a stronger group leads to a stronger team.
Yeah, bro. It's really cool to hear you speak about this, because what this shows to me is culture changing. You are setting the culture, you're setting the tone for what the team is supposed to be, and you as a collective going there, creating the Breakfast Club, getting your work in, you are showing to the rest of the team, like, hey, we're here for real. We are making the sacrifices that are necessary in order to get here on time. We're doing what we have to do, going to bed early, making sure we recover well so we can be available, right? And it's really cool to hear even that your coaches stepped in to do that, because I feel that as when you're coaching kids, it's one thing to get them all rah-rah and lead them in one way. You tell them to do something, they're going to do it because they're kids. But as an adult, you have to do things differently. You have to do things differently. So as an adult, you can't just yell. You can't just yell another grown person and be like and expect them to do things the way you want them to do. You have to put themselves in your shoes. You have to go out there with your troops and show that, hey, I'm in it with you. We are grown. We're going to do this together, and this is the way to do it. So that's awesome, man. The Breakfast Club, I loved hearing about it from you. I loved hearing from other your teammates, and I hope that it continues. Because it's such a great culture and tone setter, right? That's awesome.
Yes, we signed. All right, he's a primary Breakfast Club member.
Yes, he did.
Right out of Aboye, the future. Yes. He's still with the team. As long as there are some Breakfast Club members remaining, the Breakfast Club is alive, baby. It's not about one; it's about all.
I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. The second place I wanted to briefly touch on is James Yurchuk. You mentioned that he played through pain, and I know that's something that you did as well. For those who are not familiar with what a fullback does, his job is to run himself full speed into someone else and create lanes for his running back or pass protect for his quarterback. And he can play through pain, or he sometimes gets hurt. And when I mean hurt, I mean broken wrists, broken fingers, a broken nose or two every now and then. It is what it is. I remember at one point you told me that you had fractured your wrist, but played through it because that was what was required of you, not necessarily as a direct order from coaches saying you have to play through this, but because you knew your team needed you, and so you pushed through that. And it's football. You're going to get hurt. It's going to happen. But the best ability is availability, and that you made yourself available for your team. And I think that goes to show in the way you're respected. I'm pretty sure you were a team captain a few times. That your team loved you for being available. You were able to mentor and guide other athletes coming up because you had been through and done that, and that's something that you took from your Chuck.
Yeah, no, it's if you see someone doing something who's a leader, you want to emulate that. It doesn't mean you want to go get hurt so you can emulate that, but when you do get hurt, you know how to respond now. You know what I mean? And it doesn't just it's not just about being tough. It's about learning. Like, you watch a guy who is playing hurt, and you look what he does before practice. He doesn't just show up to practice and play hurt. He's like, you mentioned my wrist. I don't think I actually broke my wrist when that happened, but it was
good.
So that, like, you don't know what's going on, right? But the point is that before the game or before the practice, I was doing rice bucket. I was doing, you put your bands on, you open your hand, you do things to help yourself strengthen or help yourself at the very least get through the day. Just get through the day and be able to contribute and get through the day. And before the game, do what you need to do to perform. You don't just be. It's not enough to just be tough. You have to be tough when you're playing, but before the game and after the game, you have to be smart. And you have to, I would see guys rehabbing and prehabbing extensively the parts that were injured, and now you do those things, and now you can play as if you're not injured, even if it hurts, you can still perform. So it's a combination of you watch what the tough guys are doing, not just while they're playing. You watch James Jurachuk before and after. You watch Bear Woods before and after. You watch guys who are playing through things before and after. You go, okay, I got it. Like, now I know how to respond. I know what I need to do.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Leadership is not always easy. It's not always smooth sailing. Can you speak to some of the challenges that you have faced? Maybe not necessarily coming in as a young player, but more so as you became a vet and you had other players that you had to lead. Can you speak to some of those challenges?
Yeah. So first off, I could probably count on one hand, or two hands maybe, how many bad leadership experiences that I've experienced. Maybe I have a propensity to not notice the negatives as much as I do notice the positives. That might be why. But I think that a greater contributing factor to that is that there's not many examples of players who in leadership roles who have played or coaches in leadership roles who have played or coached for a long time if they have a bad attitude. You just don't get to do it for a long time. If you're a bad apple, it won't happen. For the most part, it won't happen. But that being said, there's always going to be times, few times, but there will be times where coaches or players or those around you, you notice that they are just focused on the wrong things. That's what I think it comes from. It's just guys who are focused on the wrong things. You're full of there's a group of amazing guys, amazing people in the organization. And it's not that they're bad. It's that they're focused sometimes on the wrong things. If they're focused on the negatives, or if they're focused on blaming others, that's when you see these leadership experiences that might be considered more negative. That's when you see those flare up. And I believe that the best way to address those is by your own behavior. And rather than addressing the players or the coaches themselves, you address it by doing the right things for yourself. And that's a product, too, of professional sports because you don't have a lot of control over the things around you in professional sports. One thing you have complete control of is yourself and how you respond to things.
Yes.
So if you're in a situation where there's a negative experience and you're in a leadership role, the best thing to do is to take the negatives that you're seeing and flip them and project the positive aspect of that even more so than you were before. So if you're experiencing players or coaches who are focusing on negatives and blaming others, you respond to that by focusing more on the positives and taking more ownership. If someone around you messes up, you say, my fault. my bad, man. No, I should have seen that coming because I should have done this and this, and I should have seen this and this. My bad. I'm gonna do this to correct it. And no judgment on anyone. Just taking complete ownership is going to allow those around you to correct behavior much faster than if you were to scold and bemoan other players. It doesn't work. It's not. It might work sometimes, but it's not going to be as quick, and it's not going to work as often. Because one thing that 100% is going to work is you changing your own behavior, because that's something you actually have control of.
Yes. Exactly. One of my philosophies as a leader is to put everybody in position that they're able to succeed. So like, you're absolutely right. So if something goes wrong around me, that's my bad. That's my bad. I should have put you in a better position to succeed, and because you didn't, that's on me, and I'm going to remedy that, right? And I love that you mentioned this, because you said it we did a high school talk, and you said this, you can only control how you act and react. And the day you said it in 2019, I can't remember exactly what month it was, but I remember coming off some crazy hours at work, whatever, and coming to this talk, and you said that. It's stuck with me ever since then. I'm like, yes, you can only control how you act and how you react. It's so true, and I feel that more people need to understand that. People understand those.
Let me append that a bit. I want to make a little bit of a change to that. I think that it's true that we have control over how we act and react. I think that it's to take it to the next level. I think it's that we have control over how we act and how we respond. And just the words react and respond, I think the difference between, in my head, the difference between those two words is a reaction is something that's kind of by the seat of your pants. It's like an immediate, like, and the problem with reaction is sometimes there's emotion involved. As much as you're trying to remove emotion, a reaction can sometimes be emotional. I think it's even better for us to focus on acting and responding, because a response is a choice we make. And a choice means that we've at least took a sec to think about it, and that's something that I think that's the next level of that statement, of that belief, is we always have control of how we act and respond. What do you think about that? How do you feel about that?
I honestly, I think it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Like you said, reaction is by the seat of your pants. It's a knee jerk. It's a knee jerk emotion, reaction. Exactly, knee jerk reaction. That's the sentence goes like that, right? So response is meditated. A response is something that you sit back, and something that you are is very calculated, and that's how we need to be. We can't just act without thinking. That's not gonna fly most of the time. We have to be able to sit back and calculate what the immediate repercussions of what we do are going to be, right? And I think that's big. I think that's very big. Can you briefly touch on, you mentioned before that you have grown, or that you grow by watching people lead in their specific ways. Can you briefly touch on your specific growth in the league from day one to the day you retired?
Sure. So
and your leadership style.
Yeah. So I think that, first of all, I lead very differently when I'm on the field versus when I'm off the field. When I first came in the league, I would lead the same way on the field as I do these days, to be honest, quietly. I don't, and that's just because I don't talk trash. I don't talk to people when I'm on the playing field. I try to focus on doing exactly what I need to do and no more. I don't want to do any extra, any fluff. I don't want any of that going on. I'm going to do exactly what I need to do when I'm on the field. So I'm still quiet on the field. I don't talk trash to people on the field. I won't engage in that stuff. But off the field is where my leadership style 100% has changed significantly. When I first came in the league, I was trying everything. I would try some rah-rah. I would try what I see others do, and I would just trial and error. I'm not a rah-rah leader off the field. As much as I may try to be sometimes, that's not me. Um, I think the biggest change has been the way that off the field I developed my relationships a little bit more than I did before. And I didn't realize that that was even a part of leadership initially. I didn't realize that developing your relationships with your teammates or your coaches was even something that is, because it's like how I didn't realize that that was part of leadership. But of course, it's part of leadership, and it might even be one of the biggest parts of leadership is developing the
Yeah.
relationships off the field. Um, just talking with guys about even simple things like checking in on how guys are feeling, how guys are rehabbing. If someone experiences something that when I went through it previously, I experienced any sort of negative emotion about it, I would go up to them and coming from a place of experience, just check in on how they're feeling. And that was enough to develop huge amounts of trust with my teammates because I wouldn't follow it up with corrections. I wouldn't follow it up with like, I think you should do this. I would just ask how they're doing, ask what they're doing, and wish them the best of luck. And that was enough that it would lead to conversations where now we can share with each other tips. We can share with each other what has worked, what hasn't worked, what's in the pipeline coming forward. What are we trying to do? So developing relationships is something that I'm still learning how to do. Honestly, it doesn't come natural to me, but it needs to be something that happens because it's such a vital part of leadership and growth.
Absolutely. That's very big, and the fact that you're able to recognize that that's something that you also still need to grow on, even after years of having how many teammates and years of dealing with people in general. I love that. That's always a point of emphasis. I feel that one of the biggest, personally, one of the biggest aspects of leadership is how we interact with people. You mentioned earlier, we're not dealing with robots. Leadership is not about robots and how you put in data in a machine and spits out something. Like, no, we have to be able to adapt to different people and be able to relate to people. What has been kind of something that you have found challenging in your professional career?
The hardest part that I find the hardest part to deal with is the change of the people around you, the fluidity of the rosters, especially in the CFL, but in professional sports, this is just a sport. This is just it's a professional sports thing it's a very, I say it's something that's very easy to see in professional sports, and that's the fluidity of these rosters.
Yeah.
You go into camp with 100 guys, and you leave camp with 60 guys, but it's not 40 guys that have left. There's been other guys that have come in and gone between that. So it's like half of the team has already flip-flopped through, like coming in the team and leaving the team after the first month. It's already happened. So it's like I talk about how it's important to develop relationships. You start developing a relationship with someone, and then they're on another team, or even
they're gone.
Or even worse, they're gone entirely. They're out of the league. So that's the hardest. I think that's been the hardest part. And I came in to the league with a group of us. We all got drafted together, right? My draft class, and every year there's one or two less guys that were there that you came in with. And at first it's just they're moving they get traded or they sign with another team, but then it becomes they retire. And then it becomes they're doing other things and they're not around. And it's challenging to deal with your bros leaving and doing other things. And it's even more challenging when it's not their decision. Like that when it's not something they wanted, when it's something where a guy gets hurt, right? And now because he's hurt, the team doesn't, it's kind of looking for the next guy to replace him. And then once the guy's healthy, they get released, and now other teams don't want them because there's not enough film, and there's all these things at play where it's like, man, like if the team had just had more faith in you and this happened, but that's the answer to how to overcome these things is to accept these things. And you have to accept these things because no matter how much that you might disagree with them. You might disagree with the decisions that are made. The fact of the matter is that you're in professional sports, and you do not have control over what the team decides to do. You have control over what you decide to do, and that's it.
Yep.
So the right way to overcome challenges that I found when the roster was fluid and guys are moving and things happen is to accept the power dynamic that's at play, understand that you have control of yourself, and recognize how I want to respond and how I'm going to respond to this. Am I going to focus on the negative and blame others, or am I going to flip it? Am I going to be a good leader? Am I going to focus on the positive? And am I going to accept responsibility and go, okay, these people aren't around me anymore, and that's okay. It wasn't my decision, but my next decision is going to be my best one.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect, man. I feel like we could keep going for so long, but to respect your time, sir, I want to just ask you kind of one or two final questions. From your perspective as a now recently retired professional athlete, what is the biggest piece of advice you could give to yourself in high school, and then the second piece of that, yourself in university?
If I could go back and talk to high school Deck, I would tell high school Deck to take a chill pill. I would say, hey man, relax, dog. Relax your mind, dude. You don't have to always be turned on to football mode all the time. I swear there were times in high school where I would be more relaxed on the field than I was off the field. And there were times.
I remember times where we would literally walk through high school with ankle weights on because we were always training. I don't understand why, but you were doing it, so I'm like, I guess I'm doing it too.
It's so silly, but it's not silly. The sentiment behind it is not silly. The sentiment behind it is good. I'm always trying to improve. That's great.
Yes.
The thing that I didn't understand is that there's a time to work and there's a time to rest. Okay?
Yes.
And when you're young, you can get away with it a little more. You can get away with working all the time a little more because you're young and you can recover faster. You know what I mean? You have less responsibility. So you can walk around with ankle weights all the time. But there's a time when you need to relax, and not just relax your body, but you have to learn when it's time to relax
your mind.
That's what I would tell high school Deck. Just relax, dog. Okay, you're gonna work hard. You're not lazy. You're gonna work hard. Just relax when it's time to relax. And then moving forward to college Deck, I'd say, hey, college Deck, start cooking. You know, you just moved out of the house.
Eat well.
Yeah, you just moved out of the house. Mama's not cooking for you anymore. Stop going to Subway every day, okay, and go to the grocery store instead. You know what I mean? And
you would save money that way too.
Yeah, sorry, Subway, one of the sponsors. Hold on. But you can't just go order food and eat out all the time. First of all, I didn't have the money to even be doing that. So like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
But also, start developing healthy habits. Throughout this podcast, I've been drinking something that looks like orange juice, but it's really a ginger shot, homemade. Okay, you put the lemon, you put the ginger, a little bit of turmeric.
Yes.
You get the good stuff going, right? I wish that I
put some
had
cayenne pepper in there too.
Cayenne pepper, I got it all, baby. Black pepper, activate the turmeric. I don't know, but you develop healthy habits over time. You experiment with what foods work for you. You save a lot of money, and over time you start getting these little tricks that add up, man. If you have I have so many little food things that I do every day to feel good and feel strong and be confident. It's like if I found those earlier, because it's compounding. You don't just eat something or drink something once and then you're Superman. It's like, what have you been eating and drinking for the last several months? Now that's a good gauge of how you're feeling and how you're performing. So I wish that in college I just did that, not just to perform better, but so that once I started playing professional, I already had the habits down. Because I think it would have helped with performance, of course, with recovery. It would have helped to not get injured. It would have helped to recover from injuries faster. So cooking and learning to cook and learning what foods work best for you, that's something I would tell college then for sure.
Man, that's so good. So for everybody there listening, I'm going to look at this camera and I'm going to look at this camera. For everybody there listening to this podcast, if you're listening to this advice, please heed it. One, relax your minds. Okay, learn to know how to relax your mind and build healthy habits. Builds healthy habits. It's so important because it's like Declan said, it compounds over time. And we in high school, one of the other things we did was walk around with like, I'm pretty sure like a gallon water bottle every day. And those things just add up. Like, I'm a terrible water drinker now, but if I had continued doing that, right? Imagine how hydrated I would be today. But Declan, thank you so much for that advice. Thank you so much for this entire episode, man. I'm so excited. One, for the continuation of your journey and to release this, because I know this is going to hit. It's going to be really, really good. And you have really blessed me, and I know it's going to bless so many other people just to hear a little bit of your story, a little bit of your experience through your professional journey.
I appreciate the heck out of you, Shaka. I love you, bro. And anyone that is listening, man, especially if you're like a young athlete or just a young person that has a goal, believe in yourself that you can do it.
Yes.
Okay. You have the potential to do it. You just have to work hard at it, make good decisions along the way, and be willing to change and learn. And you can do it. You can achieve your goal.
Absolutely.
You can achieve your dream. The only way to you got to steer a ship that's moving forward. You can't steer a ship that's staying still, so go after it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to in the show notes, I'm going to put Declan's Instagram and his Twitter, so you can follow Declan along there. I'm also going to just throw in one kind of surprise question. I'm going to steal a segment from another podcast, All the Smoke, and I'm going to ask you, DC, who would you like to see on the Leadership Academy? But before you answer, you have to help us get your answer on the show.
I got two answers, all right, and I'll help you get them both, okay? Perfect. Maybe even they can do it together because we're all bros, but two people that were instrumental throughout the 2022, one person throughout the 2022 season, and one person that was instrumental in helping me learn and grow throughout my career. First, Dan Adebaboye, running back, Toronto Argonauts,
yes, okay.
21, young cat, the future.
Yep.
Okay, he's a good Christian boy. Got to get him on. and
okay, perfect.
And secondly, Herbie Kuhn, our chaplain, the boy.
Yes, Herbie.
My spiritual leader. Yes, he's the man. So both of those guys, I think, would be great guests. They both have some very interesting learnings throughout their life to share. I can guarantee you that.
Absolutely.
I'll help you get them both for sure.
That's awesome. I love it. Declan Cross, thank you so much, bro. I love you. Tell Eliza I love her too. And I'm so excited for what's to come. And we'll check on you again because I want to hear how you've continued to grow.
Yes, sir. Check on you too, brother.
Absolutely.
Keep growing, brother.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that is another episode of the Beyond the Game podcast. Thank you for joining in. Feel free to follow and like, subscribe. Love you guys. Peace.
Different names for success, but we gon' taste. Keep it metal on 10, gon' be okay. Gold medals round neck, CFL rings, Bill Kings, Queens, BTG, repeat rotate.